Dada, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see you here. And first, my question is, where are you now, and what are you doing there?
I'm at Anandagauri Ashram Farm and Learning Center in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
and we hold retreats and we give opportunities for people to come and experience what it's like to live in an ashram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we grow our own food, we have a bakery,
Mm-hmm.
we have three main focuses:
Mm-hmm.
spirituality, sustainability, and community.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to give people an experience of those three things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. How long have you been there in this place?
I think about 12 years now.
12 years. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I see. Now, mostly here will be questions about your monk life, and also I would like to ask some questions about spirituality, philosophy, and if you can answer, would be great. So I know that you are monk for a long time, and but before monk life, you was doing some spiritual practices, yeah? You made something, some meditation, and I want to ask you how it was, like when you first time uh, made this practice, spirituality, and how you start to practice them.
I had a kind of a spiritual tendency or instinct
Mm-hmm.
ever since I was a child. So I would sometimes just shut myself in a closet or go somewhere quiet. And when I was at school, sometimes I would sit under a tree and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I would close my eyes and I just felt I had to do
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I was also going to church. Um, so um, I was the helper for the priest.
Mm-hmm.
I used to dress up in robes that are a little bit similar to what we're wearing now. I wasn't so much attracted to the philosophy, but the feeling of spiritual presence that was there in the church that
Mm-hmm.
attracted me.
Mm-hmm. And how you started to do meditation when is that time?
Um, well, when I met our spiritual path, Ananda Marga, in Japan, I went there as a postgraduate.
Mm.
Um, so leading up to that time when I was at university in Australia, um, I was spending quite a lot of time maybe going out in the forest or in the park and just waking up and being still in
Mm-hmm.
nature. Um, and learning a little bit about Buddhism and Eastern spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Japan, I got a scholarship to study there.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the main purpose was a spiritual journey, a spiritual
Mm-hmm.
discovery. And in that environment in Japan, I had a lot of free time, and I would just sit at my desk. Maybe I want to write a poem or something like that, and I would close my eyes and I would experience different kinds of spiritual states
Mm-hmm.
spontaneously. And it was a very powerful, ecstatic feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it would also disappear, and I didn't know why it came or how it came or why it disappeared. Um, but these things were just starting to happen by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Dada, what do you think that you told that you had a feeling you wanted experience some spiritual feelings in the church, also you was feeling this, and why people like this energy, why people search for this energy, and what is the motivation for people, for you, to be in these places, to go to another country to search something, like why it's so motivate us to do these actions.
Well, I think it's what makes us different from other creatures.
Mm-hmm.
For me, definitely, I just felt this inborn longing. It was something that I couldn't resist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Jesus puts it nicely. He says, the fox has its hole, the bird has its nest,
Mm-hmm.
but the child of man has no place to rest his head. So I think knowingly or unknowingly, we all have this desire for happiness and not just limited happiness or temporary happiness. If we could have permanent, absolute happiness, all of us would want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's inborn. It's a human thing.
Mm-hmm. And how meditation works in this case, Dada? How meditation helps to feel this happiness? Because, for example, when I made meditation, I I become really happy and I stop search for happiness in outside. And I think the same you also. How meditation works that it fulfill our this desire to feel this happiness.
It, on the outside, if we think we have a kind of external self and an internal self,
Mm-hmm.
um, our external self is about that which is limited, the outer forms, the temporary forms and of things. But at the essence of everything in our own center, in any place where there is stillness,
Mm-hmm.
we connect to the center of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that center is timeless. It has no boundaries of shape or form. So it's both eternal and infinite.
Mm-hmm.
We connect to the feeling of being,
Mm-hmm.
and being itself doesn't come in boxes, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just a state. You can find it inside yourself. It's all around you. If you go to the other side of the universe, you'll find that same sense of being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how was your first experience in meditation? Did you feel these feelings, or can you explain how it was?
Well, as I said, some of these things were starting to happen to me spontaneously. So I was having very blissful experiences, even though I wasn't formally doing meditation. My first taste of formal meditation was uh, quite difficult. I got a bit discouraged. I felt this is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I persisted, and uh, within not too long a time, maybe within about a month or so,
Mm-hmm.
I was having amazingly happy experiences. So happy that, tears were coming down my face, and I just wanted to meditate.
Mm-hmm. Now, about meditation, you said I was really crying, tears was coming, and I know that now in the world, a lot of all sorts of meditations, like from anxiety, from depression, if you cannot sleep properly, or whatever. Like if you have any problem, there is a lot of kind of meditation to solve this problem. And what is the difference between meditation, what you are doing, what you're practicing, and the difference between this kind of meditations to solve some problem or attract some wealth or some material objects? What is the difference? Because we can find a lot of apps in a phone app store and download and meditate, like concentrate on our breath or some mantra. And why? What is the difference between yours meditation and this kind of meditations?
Um, I think there are differences and common points. So any kind of meditation, even if you just go and close yourself in a room
Mm-hmm.
and take your mind away and just be still and be with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
of course, that will have some benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So, as long as whatever type of meditation someone is doing is about um, turning their attention away from outside forms and looking for the inner substance or inner being
Hmm.
of something, that's going to be useful.
Hmm.
But I think the meditation techniques have evolved over thousands of years, and the techniques that we practice are very developed in how they help the mind turn inwards, because that's not an easy process.
Hmm.
We have a stage by stage process using various types of visualization that help us turn the mind inwards. And then the directing of the mind towards a very consciously spiritual, uh, the idea of the divine
Hmm.
and the idea of something infinite and eternal. So the object is very clear and very high. What are we trying to get to? If you're meditating on butterflies or, you know, nice nature scenes, it's not a clearly spiritual goal.
Hmm.
But if you are meditating on the idea of divinity as something infinite and something eternal, there's a certain clarity and depth of purpose to it.
Hmm.
And then integrating that with very powerful and very effective mantras,
Hmm.
which in our path we um, allocate mantras, or we give mantras to people according to their particular psychology. So, how to match the mantra with the
Hmm.
person. So, all these things make the the practices that we do very powerful.
Hmm.
And we also, have a number of lessons that we do that help to support, that help to give us um, how to maintain our mindfulness,
Hmm.
not just at the time of doing meditation, but in between meditations.
Hmm.
So we have a very integrated approach. Everything that we do, our whole lifestyle supports it. What we eat, the yoga exercises, how we breathe, um, the principles of life that we follow.
Hmm.
Everything supports that. Strengthening the capacity of the mind and the body to kind of turn inwards in a disciplined way.
And what is the final goal of this meditation?
In Sanskrit, there are two words for the highest goals of meditation, and one is mukti and one is moksha.
Hmm.
And the root word of both of those, or the root of both of those words is muk, which means freedom.
Hmm.
So the goal is absolute freedom,
Hmm.
not freedom in the sense of I'm free to do this and that,
Hmm.
but freedom in the sense that my awareness has no boundaries.
Hmm.
I'm not the slave of my desires and my emotions. I am able to hold myself in that state of complete detachment and connection with something perfect.
Hmm. When you started this meditation, how long you practiced this practice, and what time you started think about, oh, I want to become a monk. I want to dedicate my life, sacrifice everything what I have, and give myself to this path. Like how you came up with this thoughts?
Um, well, I jumped in to practicing meditation uh, quite intensely from the beginning,
Hmm.
um, because I just had that. As soon as I started practicing the meditation, having those spirit experiences, uh, I felt that this is the most important thing that I have ever come across.
Mm.
And uh, you know, then so I was doing meditation intensely right from the beginning. Um, but the first time this thought to become a monk arose in my mind was 6 months after I had started practicing this meditation. I went to a big retreat in Taiwan. I was living in Japan. And during that retreat, even when we arrived there, it was a very special atmosphere. I felt that something was going to happen. I just had an intuition about it. But I think on the second day of the retreat, they invited people who were interested to know more about being a monk to a talk. And there was a young American monk who was very enthusiastic, and he was talking about the life of being a monk. And about halfway through that, I just had this really strong feeling, this is my life. And I'd never, I was 23 or 24 at that time. And at that age, you're really thinking a lot about what you want to do and what your course will be. And I'd never had such a powerful feeling that this is what I wanted to do. So I went and spoke to the senior monk, more or less, even though I told myself, take your time, think about it carefully, don't do anything hasty. But I was just, the feeling was so strong that I couldn't hold myself back. And I went to talk to the senior monk, and his first reaction was, I was waiting for you to tell me that. So then he said, how long will it take you to go back to Tokyo and wrap up your affairs? Would 1 month be enough? And immediately he said that, I thought, if I go back to Tokyo, every single person I know will try and stop me. And I felt, oh, how am I going to get through that? And then he looked at me sideways. I don't know, maybe he could read my thoughts. And he said, or I'm leaving for India in 3 days. If you want, you can come with me. And that's what I did.
Great. Now, when you was feeling this strong desire to, okay, I want to become monk, and how do you think these feelings come? Because I was asking many Dadas, monks, that they also was feeling, oh, I have to be a monk. I have to dedicate my life for this path. But why people feel like this, Dada? Why people want to become a monk?
I think, you know, a lot of the answers to these questions are hidden from us. They are something to do with our past lives that we don't know about. We just experience it as a strong feeling. But I think there are some things that are, as a young person, you are seeking the infinite and the permanent as a human being. So as you come to understand that this is where you will find it, of course, that interest to devote yourself to that becomes stronger. We also have this desire to do something good with our lives, right? To do something noble. That's another human characteristic, and it's especially strong in young people. So when you combine that desire for expansion, for spiritual realization, for oneness, for love, with the desire to do something noble, and when you feel that that you can do that, you can express that, both fulfill your own longing and contribute something useful in the world, then it's a very powerful feeling.
And when you travel with Dada to India, what he showed to you, what he said to you, and what you did with him. So how it was in India, your journey?
Well, I had to face immediately I made my decision. Um, I was attacked by doubts and
Mm-hmm.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry,
In India, you was attacked by your doubts.
even before
Ah.
virtually the day after.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I look back on it, I think that the universe, there's something to do with fate. So it, it was my path
Mm-hmm.
chosen for me, whether I like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it was as if the divinity has said, okay, you're coming with me. You may not be ready. You may not always like it, but there's work for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you're coming along.
Mm-hmm.
So I had lots of doubts, um, my own doubts about myself. When I arrived in India, it was I had never experienced such a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seemed upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our organization at that time was not used to, didn't have much experience with foreigners. I became sick immediately. I didn't know how to look after myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was having trouble on the physical level, trouble on the psychic level, trouble on the spiritual level. Um, when I first met our teacher,
Mm-hmm.
um, in order to be able to connect to something deep, you have to be deeply established in yourself and your own awareness. And I was so new to meditation that I couldn't really appreciate uh, my master deeply. And I had to be kind of rescued.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I was really, it's like I had gone from very shallow water into very deep water very quickly. And I felt kind of like I was uh, drowning
Mm-hmm.
different times. So India was a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a complete restructuring of my whole reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, because I had come, unlike other people who had decided to become monks, I had decided very quickly. I wasn't very established. Um, but for me, you know, uh, the feeling was, okay, I may not be ready, but if I don't go now, I may miss my chance.
Mm-hmm. And how did you overcome this crisis then in India?
I think that it took a long time. Um, I think having people around me who were supportive and loving and caring, um, I think the grace and love of the divine in the form of our master. I was fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
and receive a lot of attention. So the care and the love and the feeling that despite whatever weaknesses I had, I was appreciated and cared for. Um, that was a big part of it. And just, you know, I think a lot of challenges come because you have to start processing
Mm-hmm.
your past karma, your past actions. And you have to go through some kind of cleansing process. So as I went through this process, eventually things began to kind of clear up a
Mm-hmm.
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think that goes on throughout a person's life. I'm still, not immune to facing struggles.
Mm-hmm. What was your next step to become a monk when you came to India? You what you did? Like it was just you was living there, or you immediately went to the training, or how it was?
I immediately went to the training.
In
So,
India.
yes, I'm not in India, actually. It was in Nepal.
Ah, Nepal.
So I did my training in three parts. The first part was in Kathmandu.
Mm-hmm.
The second part was in Varanasi. and the third part was in Calcutta.
Mhm. And how you were feeling in this staying period? It was hard or it was very easy? What kind
It
of?
was, for me, extremely difficult.
Mhm.
It was very blissful many times. Of course, I got more established in my meditation, but again, I had to face these doubts. And I think I had always been a very sensitive person, and I had struggled with depression during my adolescence. So the the physical illness and the psychic shocks of the difference of culture and everything, it was just um, processing a lot of things all at the same time on all different levels.
Mhm.
So I had to deal with a lot of physical illness. I
Mhm.
had to deal with fear, and sometimes the fear of losing my mental balance or losing my mind. That was a big struggle because my mind was developing quickly and my body was not keeping pace with it, partly because of the illness.
Mhm.
Um, so, as those who were in the training with me, can say that I did go through a lot of psychic challenges also.
Do you think that this was very crucial part in becoming a monk in your life? Because when we face a lot of struggle, we become strong. And when I used to speak with brothers who passed training, they had many challenges during this training period, and they were telling that it was some people tell it was not necessary, but some mostly people used to tell that it was a thing which helped me to really become a strong. So, do you feel like this also?
Yes, I think so. Um, I think one of the most important things on the spiritual journey is to learn that uh, a lot of what you have to deal with,
Hmm.
you cannot deal with successfully from your own resources.
Hmm.
So you have to learn how to surrender to something greater than yourself.
Hmm.
And that's a big challenge.
Hmm.
So in a way, unless you collapse and discover your own helplessness,
Hmm.
you can't truly open yourself to that assistance.
Hmm.
So this feeling of, physically, I almost died, and mentally, I was on the edge of, kind of losing my mind, and really understanding that there was nothing that I could do to help myself. And then when you get that help and you feel something coming and supporting and loving and holding you and giving you security, then you realize and you feel gratitude and you realize that you have a much more powerful personal experience of divinity as something that is you know always there to support you.
Hmm. What was your next step after this training in three places?
So then I was given my first assignment at the end. This was in 1978. So in November 1978, I finished my training
Mm.
and I was given my first assignment, which was Bangladesh.
Mm.
So I went there with very little money,
Mhm.
and I couldn't work openly because Bangladesh was and is a Muslim country, and
Mhm.
it was actually illegal to teach anything except Islam there.
Mhm.
So my, I think I probably needed a lot of purification.
Mhm.
So, so I was sent to a very difficult place and very difficult circumstances. And I also had, I still had a lot of unresolved questions,
Mhm.
doubts about my path, doubts about myself. And I think it was probably in the interests of our organization that someone with so many questions and doubts was sent to a place where where my doubts wouldn't affect anyone because there was no Ananda Marga there. So I was able in that place,
Mm-hmm.
and my second posting also, which was Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
to process a lot of these things
Mm-hmm.
um, on my own, um, and resolve those questions before I got sent to a place where there were many more members,
Mm-hmm.
um, where, I by the time I got sent to kind of more established environments, a lot of my questions had been resolved.
Mm-hmm. What kind of job that you're doing in these places, and what is the job of monk in any place of the world? When you got posted, what usually do monks there?
Well, our first job is, helping people um, find the happiness that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's searching for peace of mind, for self-knowledge. So as a monk, we are helping people with their most intimate and most important and profound search.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you are giving them practical means by which they can find what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think there's only one other thing that can compare with the joy that you get from meditation, and that's the joy of helping other people find that joy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great honor, I feel, to um, be in a position to help guide people on their spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm. And after Sri Lanka, what kind of posting you got? Where you moved after Sri Lanka?
Well, I had kind of, it was very interesting because I was trained in Asian studies and Japanese language. So I had been hoping that I would get sent to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was Japan. I had lived there as a child. I had studied there. And so I was quite upset when my second posting was Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also suffering on a physical level. And I can remember in the beginning of 1980, I think, uh, attending a program where our master was giving some spiritual lectures
Mm-hmm.
and kind of giving up
Mm-hmm.
the idea that I would ever get out of India.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up my desire to, and I just accepted that even though I'm suffering, I will be here. And I kind of was at peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it was the same evening or the next day, but then someone told me, you've been given a new assignment to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I look back on it, and perhaps I even realized it at the time, I can't remember, but I realized that came to me the moment that I let go,
Mm-hmm.
and that I had to let go.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So my next assignment was Australia, and but we were a very poor organization at the time, and they didn't have enough money to buy me a ticket to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was another 6 months in
India.
India
Mm-hmm.
without any assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was wonderful, actually, because I was in Calcutta with our master
Mhm.
every day, twice a day for
Mm.
6 months.
Mm.
And during that time, I was able to get past many of the complexes I had,
Mm.
especially the fear complex. And by the end of that time, I felt a lot more confident both in my relationship with him as my guru
Mhm.
and uh, and just in my own meditation.
Mhm. I many times hear that when people start to do some practices, and when they hear a concept of master guru, they used to say, "Oh, I will be my own. I will do my own. I know what to do, and I know what kind of practice to do, and I don't want to be attached or be uh, with someone. I have my own path." And what do you think that about this guru, about master? You're telling that it was really great time to spend with him, and this time helped you to overcome a lot of crises, solve questions. And what do you think the role of master, of guru, in a spiritual path? How it is important, or you can move by your own and achieve this goal without master? So can you explain this topic?
Well, however much a person may think that they know,
Hmm.
we actually know very little.
Hmm.
And to really awaken spiritually, it's important to realize that. And I think there's something very uh, crucial in the spiritual journey is realizing that you know nothing
Hmm.
and accepting your own limitedness, because that humbleness is what opens you up to something bigger,
Hmm.
right? A certain humbleness enables a person to appreciate the beauty and greatness all around them, appreciate the beauty of the divine. So as long as there's some kind of ego about, I think I know, um, that's going to hold a person back. Of course, you can make progress, but you are making progress with your very tiny brain
Hmm.
and your very limited capacities. So that progress is going to be extremely slow,
Hmm.
right? But once you realize your own limitations and are ready to open up to something bigger than yourself, then the capacity for increasing the speed of your progress dramatically increases.
Hmm.
And it applies in all walks of life. People who are humble and open and ready to learn from what's around them can make big progress. But people who already think that they know everything
Hmm.
or they know a lot, they slow themselves down.
Hmm.
So, what is uh, a guru, a master? It is someone who has already made a lot of progress.
Hmm.
And if we are humble and open, we can get a huge amount of benefit from someone who is far advanced along the journey
Hmm.
from us. They can help us avoid mistakes. They can help us go uh, much faster. And if we truly trust, in the tantric tradition, they say if you have a good disciple in the sense of humble and self-controlled and open and disciplined, and a good master, then anything can be accomplished in a very short time.
Hmm.
But without that humbleness and without a qualified person to help you, then there's going to be mistakes and wasted time and that kind of thing.
Hmm. You say that our progress is master. It can be speed up very, very much. And I noticed also in the spiritual path, when I started do meditation, practitioners who were practicing 5, 6 years, they were telling your speed of fly will increase. Now you are like in a bicycle, but after like 1 year, 2 years, you will be like in a car and then in a rocket, and you will move very fast. What is the mechanism behind this speed? When you feel that For example, in the training center where I'm here, 1 month can pass and you feel that like 1 year passed because so many things, so many realizations you got. What is the principle behind this? The principle behind this speed? Why we feel this in a spiritual path?
Um, I think it is clarity about direction
Hmm.
and improved focus.
Hmm.
So as long as you are confused about your direction, you may put a lot of energy, but it's going in conflicting directions.
Hmm.
So as your clarity increases, then your focus gets more correct.
Hmm.
And also when we begin the spiritual journey, not only do we have lack of clarity, but we have lack of ability to sustain our focus.
Hmm.
So as the clarity and the strength of focus increases, the speed increases. It's like a laser, right? So when you're unfocused, your energy is going in many different directions and you're not quite sure what you should be focusing on. Um, and speed comes from focus. Right? I think most people experience that in their lives. If they're very focused on something and they apply their attention and their concentration, they will make steady progress.
Hmm. I see. When you was posted in Australia after being in India 6 months, how it was there, what kind of job you're doing there, and how you was feeling in this place after India.
Right. Well, I had been a total of 2.5 years on the Indian subcontinent. That last 6 months was with my master in Calcutta.
Hmm.
Um, it was beautiful.
Hmm.
Australia is a lovely country. Um, the kind of just the difference in organization and I think coming out of a very poor um, I had been quite poor very poor as a monk in Calcutta, sorry, in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Um, so arriving and staying in one of our members' houses and him telling me just help yourself to whatever is in the fridge. And I remember opening the fridge and there was such a variety of all types of things that I had forgotten even existed. That it was quite a shock. I had to go and sit down.
Hmm.
So yeah, and it was very nice to be in a place where there were uh, other spiritual people, some of who were very beautiful. We had regular meditations, and I I arrived very inspired after my 6 months of being with the master, and it was a joy to share
Hmm.
um, what I had and share stories and experiences, and to start practically helping more people along the spiritual path.
Hmm. What was the role of master in your life, Dada? When you were spending.
Sorry, let me just add one more thing. We also had lots of other young monks, Dadas and Didis, that we were working together with. So it was really nice
Hmm.
to be a team and to work together with them.
Hmm.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. When you were spending 6 months, Dada, how what do you was feeling with Guru, being with Guru? Because I heard many stories that just to be with him, with Master, it was so great opportunity. It was so blissful. And how you was feeling? You were feeling that time.
My feeling of love and trust, respect, devotion, um, and maybe confidence
Mm-hmm.
um, grew a lot
Mm-hmm.
in that time. So, and it grew mostly through different experiences that he gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a desire for this or a desire for that, and or a question in my mind, and he would fulfill those wishes in a very personal way,
Mm-hmm.
um, which gave me a sense of connection. Like I would have a thought in my mind, and he would suddenly turn around and look at me and answer my question directly, or just indicate in some way that he was aware of what I was thinking. I had a small wish, a spiritual or devotional wish, and it would be granted. And I also witnessed him doing that not only for me, but for almost everybody who came.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just, some people are very pleasant to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And his vibration to be around him was just a wonderful experience. Um, he could also be very challenging. So, one moment he could make you feel calm and relaxed, and the next moment he could almost blow the hair off your head. So, so it was very exciting. It was very exciting to see how he kept unfolding our philosophy with
Mm-hmm.
uh, deeper and new ideas in different fields.
Mm-hmm. You many times mentioned organization, that it was poor, and the organization posted me in this place, that place. What what is the role of organization in monk life, especially in your tradition? What is the goal of this organization, and why we, as a monk, you have to be in an organization?
Well, it's, organization has its good side and its bad side. Um, if you want to have an impact on the world,
Mm-hmm.
you can have more of an impact if you're cooperating with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that we would, um, have materials for our training and for our work that would be prepared by experienced people who could give us, materials to work with, that we would sit down together and discuss what our goals and what our,
Mm-hmm.
how we could cooperate. So this ability to plan and work together means that you can have more of an impact than if you're just working by yourself. And of course, in every team, you have people with different qualities. So you have some people who are good at this and some people who are good at that. And when you all cooperate together, then you're able to accomplish more than if you're just working with someone's limited capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then you have to face all the different problems because human beings have their weaknesses. And when you have positions of structure and seniority, and you have people there, their weaknesses are also going to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And as that happens, then it's a learning process for you, and it's a learning process for them, and it's a learning process for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we progress
Yeah.
as individuals and as a society. There's always going to be challenges when a group of people get together, but we learn from those challenges.
Mm-hmm. What is the goal of this organization? Why? What organization does? And
Well, I think in our organization we have two basic goals: the
Mhm.
personal goal, which is helping people achieve self-realization on
Mhm.
the personal level, so supporting people with their practices and helping them develop in a systematic way all through the spiritual journey.
Mhm.
So that's one of our goals. That's the inner or personal goal.
Mhm.
And then the social goal is basically to create a world where all living beings have the opportunity to develop their potentiality to the fullest. So, uh, some people have amazing spiritual potentiality, but how can they develop that if they're starving or if they're exploited
Mhm.
or if they're uneducated?
Mhm.
So, Ananda Marga um, is a very, diverse social service mission also because we're trying to help remove the problems which are blocking uh, humans, and not only humans, plants and animals need a secure environment to exist.
Mhm.
So there's so many problems in this world which are uh, uh, need to be solved, and our organization is basically working towards creating the kind of world that can support people in their physical, mental, and spiritual growth.
Mhm.
And I think that's important because you have many philosophies in the world which are guided, don't have a clear goal in the sense of understanding what
Mhm.
human beings are capable of.
Mhm.
So if you view human beings just as material beings, how are you going to design a society that helps them evolve their psychic and spiritual potentiality?
Mhm.
So mm, that's the goal, basically, is to create the kind of society that can support our journey physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Do you believe that these changes, these problems, these changes is possible and these problems can be solved? Do you believe on this?
I think problems will always be there, but I think progress is definitely possible. And I think, solving something perfectly isn't the most important thing. I think the most important thing is to have a feeling that you're going in the right direction and you're making progress.
Mhm.
So I feel that, the clarity of direction and the integration of spirituality and economy and environment and nature and um, education and so forth. I think that's our strong point. This, many people have um, are doing something beautiful and something worthwhile in a certain sphere, but we are lacking a integrated approach that where the same kind of logic and understanding is applied on all different levels in all aspects of life. And I think that's Ananda Marga's strong point in
Mhm.
that integration of
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm. Regarding monk life, I know that in India it is common to like leave your everything and go to the jungle and be like live ascetic life and be a monk, become a monk. But in a Western society, there is of course some ideas about like monk in a church or in some other places, but it's not common for young people or actually many people to become a monk is just something really weird, we can say, because we have a lot of desires, we want to achieve a lot of things, but it seems that monk life is you have to cut everything and you have to dedicate life for something. And young people do not have this clear conception what is a monk life. And can you please share in your opinion like what is a monk life in a general, and how you can explain to these people who just searching for something, like as you said, like for service, for doing some great like job, helping others people, uh, share with them like what is the monk life is generally, and how it's to be a monk.
Well, the Western concept of a monk is more someone who leaves the society and lives in a monastery. Whereas the Indian concept of being a monk is kind of like someone who is traveling and interacting with the society, a kind of a traveling teacher. Although a monk's life may have different phases, there may be a phase where you are kind of more focused on doing your own spiritual practice and establishing your spiritual practice. But in Ananda Marga, the idea of being engaged with the society and helping people where they are, helping solve the world's problems, is a very important part of it. I think that not everybody is called to that. If you have a very strong desire to have a family and a partner, then being a monk isn't going to be suitable for you. I had to struggle a lot with, I think if I could describe myself when I became a monk, I would describe myself as 49% romantic and 51% monk. So there was a battle for me, but I learned a lot through that battle, and I also found that I could, eventually feel that yes, I can really find my happiness on this path. But for many years, I was, in doubt whether I could find everything that I was looking for by being a monk, and missing having a companion in my life. So one has to, have that kind of monk gene somewhere inside you, that you can feel that you can fulfill yourself by serving others and by the romantic relationship with the divine rather than with another person.
If you speak about regarding God, regarding relationship with Him, I know in the world there is a lot of concepts of the God, and someone tells like is the guy who like sitting there, and if you're doing something wrong, he will punish you, or something is telling like the God is everything. Someone is telling that like there is no God, and what is the concept in your philosophy of God, and how could we have also relationship with Him, as you told?
Well, I think we talked about in the beginning that people are attracted to stillness, to being, to presence. So at the center of everything, there is a certain beingness, awareness itself, the nucleus, consciousness. So that kind of quiet center of the storm, we all want that. We all feel its possibility within ourselves. And it is the same nucleus at the center of everything. So God is simultaneously that still awareness at the center of your being and the still awareness at the center of everything. So your mind and your personality will have differences, but the stillness and the beingness at the center doesn't have any, differences. It's universal.
Mhm.
So that's one sense of divinity. And then the way in our philosophy we see the world as kind of divine imagination.
Mhm.
So you can close your eyes and you can imagine the universe, or let's say you are um, uh, what is her name? The author of the Harry Potter series.
Rowling, Joan Rowling.
Who?
Joan Rowling.
Yes, yes, yes. J.K. Rowling.
Mhm.
So she imagined a whole universe in her mind, and she's just a human being.
Mhm.
And so many of us enjoyed that universe, and it's huge in depth and scope and adventure, and it has good people and bad people, and it's very exciting.
Mhm.
And that's just what one small woman
Mhm.
can do.
Mhm.
Imagine what the total consciousness of the entire universe can do, right?
Mhm.
So imagine that divine consciousness. It can hold the whole universe.
Mhm.
And imagine, you know, so what we experience as life in the yoga philosophy is just the internal imagination of the absolute.
Mhm.
So everything is divine in the sense, if everything is divine imagination, what is not divine? So God is both the center of everything, but also the imaginer of everything. And what is that imagination made of? It's made up of himself, herself, itself.
Mhm.
Just as J.K. Rowling knows whatever's going to happen in the Harry Potter universe and
Mhm.
plans the whole thing in her mind.
Mhm.
So, and it's all made of her own imagination.
Mhm.
So that's how we see that the imaginer and the objects which are imagined are also God, and the process of imagining it is also.
Mhm.
And then you and me are the internal imagined beings of
Mhm.
that divine consciousness.
And how to make relationship with this consciousness.
Well, as you are able to turn your attention inwards and to experience the subtle center of something, you have to be subtle and centered yourself.
Mhm.
So as you center on your own uh, being and awareness, um, in fact, we are connected with that all the time. And the only thing that separates us is the amount of noise in our mind.
Mhm.
So as the mind becomes calm and quiet, our sense of being part of and being connected to and being identified with that divinity gets stronger and stronger. Um, but because human beings have always had some limitations, at any stage on the spiritual journey, there are some things you can realize and some things you can't.
Mhm.
So we benefit when um, another living being has let go of their personality and identified themselves with um, that center and expresses that center. So through the manifestation of that divinity in a highly developed human being.
Mhm.
So we feel a connection and love and a personal relationship with anyone who is wise.
Mhm.
Um, and someone who is extremely wise
Mhm.
and who kind of represents everything that you can become,
Mhm.
um, and speaks to you the wisdom that you are not yet able to hear within yourself. So then we also get a relationship, and that has traditionally been the role that the guru plays. So the guru represents you, what you can become when you reach your fullest potentiality,
Mhm.
and gives you a personal way to relate to that divinity.
Mhm. You said that is a, yeah, imagination of this consciousness. And this J.K. Rowling, she also imagines the world, all world of Harry Potter. But in her mind, she can like describe the role of like these personalities in her story, and she can like move them. She can control them. But in real world, we feel that we kind of can have control on our life, and we are making our life, and we are as a uh, operators of our life. And how you can explain this concept that in our mind we can build picture and it is we can control it, but in the real world where we are imagination of consciousness, we feel that we have a control on our life. How is matched in this concept?
Um, I think as we progress on the spiritual journey, we realize more and more that there is a greater power controlling
Mhm,
everything. And we also experience the limits to our own capacity to control. So I don't think there's anyone in life who goes through life who really is totally confident of their ability to control
mhm,
everything.
mhm,
Um, and wiser people understand that uh, there is a very limited amount that you control.
mhm,
Of course, you have responsibilities and you have to do them to the best that you can. But the more you can be open to the idea that there is a vast power that you can tap into, and if you just trust it and surrender to it, it can handle things much better. And it is actually handling things much better. Then that makes you more effective, partly because it's true, and partly because you're opening yourself up to being an instrument rather than thinking that you are the controller.
mhm. Okay.
So I think that there's you know wisdom is about um, it's kind of like how a child evolves. In the beginning, it's very dependent on the mother, but then it gets more and more independence.
Mhm,
But as it becomes wider, it learns how to depend on others, how to depend on God.
mhm,
So individuality is kind of like a medium stage where you have to be able to do certain things in your life and you have to, not depend on your mother anymore. But spiritual maturity is also about surrendering that
mhm,
ego and opening up to a much more powerful and capable force.
mhm. Okay. Another quick question: 5 benefits of monk life.
I think maybe the first one is doing something truly meaningful,
Mhm,
right? As I said earlier, that uh, you're helping people with the most intimate and the most important journey in their
mhm,
lives. And uh, the fact that you can dedicate your life to working towards something which is of the hugest importance to every single being on the planet, you
mhm,
know. And so having a mission,
mhm,
being able to live for something that is not just a temporary goal. You could live for this mission life after life for the rest of eternity, and you'd still be doing the most important thing in the universe.
mhm,
So for me, I think that's the primary thing.
mhm,
In the times when I was thinking about giving up, I eventually realized that I couldn't live without living for a mission. I need that sense of meaning.
mhm,
Mm, then the second thing would be um, when you work as a teacher, if you're helping people, you are always the one who benefits the most.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think deeply about the philosophy. You have to think what people need and things. And every effort that you make to teach clarifies your own understanding, and you are benefiting more than
Mm-hmm.
than others. Um, I think simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we get tired, we get exhausted when we are rushing around in so many different directions. And a monk's life has a certain simplicity to it, and you can't have peace without simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think love. This, if you are a monk, you will have more time than someone who is, managing a company or managing a company and looking after a family, or, you know, all the complexities of our social family relationships and business relationships and things like that mean that for a person who is not a monk, there's not as much time to do spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of our monk's life to meditate more often. And if you're teaching, you need to meditate more often. Otherwise, what are you going to teach?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good for having more time to put into your spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one would be that if you're going to be a teacher, you have to look at yourself. You have to confront yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be a leader, you have to look at yourself and you have to confront yourself. Now, to some extent, if you're going to be a parent, you have to do that
Mm-hmm.
too. But I think if you're going to work as a monk, you will always have to question and work on yourself
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do your work properly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's 5, but
Four.
those are the ones that come to my mind.
Okay. Now, I have 3 or more books which really made an impact on your life, and we can say change your life. Can you share 3 or more books which you read?
Well, um, there are so many of our master's books, like the first one that I read that really I thought, wow, that just really makes sense to me, was A Guide to Human Conduct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thoughts of P.R. Sarkar, so many little inspirational things that help me with questions and problems. So our own master's books have helped me more than any other consistently, and I study every day. But books outside our path, the one that initially got me excited about the spiritual journey was a book popular in the 1970s called The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that made me excited about what could happen, the magic that could happen with a good master or good trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And after I put that book down, I looked up in the sky and I said, "Where is my Don Juan?" So that had a big impact on me. More recently, I would say Paul Brunton's book called, I think it's called The Short Path to Enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to see the parallels in his teachings with a lot of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some very exciting. I'd say it's good to learn about, how the spiritual journey is expressed from other perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that book. And then the classics, the I Ching, the Tao Te Ching from the Chinese tradition, and the Bhagavad Gita from the Indian tradition, and a beautiful poem called the Ashtavakra Gita.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really like that book.
Mm-hmm. That your advice for first advice for people who just searching for something, searching for God, for this consciousness, but they do not know how to do, what to do, and how to start. First advice for these people, and second advice for those people who feeling inside of their heart some great call. Oh, I need to go. I need to do something. I need to like dedicate my life for something bigger than just consuming, than just going, working, and like these two advice of two kind of people.
I think for people who are spiritually searching,
Mhm.
um, give as much time as you can to do some kind of spiritual practice,
Mhm.
right? To do some meditation and read and study. Um, if you are practicing and searching, then many spiritual traditions say that you don't have to find the guru will find you. So the universe will come to you when the intensity of desire is sufficient.
Mhm.
So cultivate your own desire through study and through practice, and the universe will hear that and come to you and give you, the way forward.
Mhm.
And as far as those who want to do something significant, um, yeah, cultivate that desire. Um, Again, read, study, think, um, be exposed to, be around people who are engaged with doing something important.
Mhm.
Um, Activists or people who are engaged in some kind of social service. Um, I think the same advice applies to people who are spiritually searching. If you're spiritually searching, be around spiritual people. If you want to do something to change the world, then be around people and be involved with people who are doing something to change the world.
Mhm. No, thank you so much. It was almost 1.5 hours, and it passed so quickly, and it was so inspiring. And I hope people also who were watching will get some inspiration from you. And thank you again that you was agreed to answer these questions. And I hope maybe if it will be interesting for people, we can do again. And I hope so. So thank you so much, Dada, and namaskar.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.